We are here with Charlo Barbosa, who's the founder and chairman of GoodGamer. And in the spirit of our Emerging Insights series, GoodGamer is an emerging company in an emerging industry. So we're going to get a chance to learn about both of those in this interview. And so Charlo, first of all, welcome. Thank you for taking the time with us.
Thank you for having me.
I should mention as a point of clarification, that GoodGamer is not the same company as Good Gaming, which is an esports company, traded on the OTC. Charlo, you are in esports. You are also in a country that a lot of American investors don't understand, which is India. And we look forward to learning about those. But first of all, tell us a little bit about esports. Because I think a lot of folks don't really understand it quite well.
So esports is an act of people playing video games against each other, playing for a prize pool. It could be a one-on-one mini tournament. It can go on tournaments where it has a massive teams of say 128 players or teams playing, or even online leaderboard tournaments that go up to 2 million players in a tournament. So true traditional esports fanatics think of the main esports games of Dota 2, League of Legends, CSGO. That's where the big mega tournaments are, where people are betting heavily online on those tournaments. But then you've got the Flappy Bird type of games, where they're mobile casual games where users just want to play against each other. So they put money into a prize pool. And then whoever wins part of the prize pool or wins all the prize pool. So essentially, as long as there's 2 players minimum that want to play against each other, that could be considered esports.
You're also going to tell us about your plans in India. And India is a much different gaming market than the United States, for example, or Canada. Rummy is a major part of that, I believe. So tell us a little bit about the India gaming business.
So in India, what we like about India is that there's so many players. So there's 365 million online gamers in India, expected to hit 510 million players by 2022. So India has been the fastest growing in terms of online growth and online game downloads. So there's been about 165% growth over the last couple of years on the Indian gaming market. So for us, it gives us, a lot more users to attract. India is also the lowest cost per download out of any country in the world. The average cost for a download in India is about 50 cents, for example, whereas in the United States, it might cost you anywhere from $5 to $7 for an app install. So the growth, of the esports in India has gone exponential. There are companies out there, for example, MPL, Mobile Premier Live. Within the span of 2 years, they ended up from 0 users to about 80 million users that play on their platform. So the growth is quite exponential over there. People do, thousands or millions of, monthly transactions, wanting to play against each other. Now the value of, every single contest that people enter in might only be 10 rupees, which isn't a lot of money. But when you consider how many players are playing these online 24/7, the amount of money that these operators make is massive.
You've got some unusual games there, because I think gambling, as we generally define it, is illegal in most of India. What kind of games do people play?
So like you said earlier, Rummy is a very, very popular game. Rummy is obviously a card game, not an esports game. There's about 30 million Rummy players alone in India that play on the large Rummy sites. There's also poker that's coming out, which is starting to get really, really big in India. There's about 3 million hardcore poker players in India right now. But the other games that people play are cricket. Cricket is the national pastime. So fantasy cricket and just regular cricket games is like the biggest thing in India, especially during the IPL season. That's like the Super Bowl for Indians, right? It lasts for about 7 weeks, and people go crazy playing fantasy sports on cricket, and also games like WCC Rivals, which has over 100 million downloads for cricket, and then people love to play against each other. They also play games like simple games like pool, for example. Pool is like a popular game over there. And then other, very casual mobile games like, Candy Crush type of games. There's a lot of variants over there. And one of the most popular games in India is Ludo King, which I believe has had over 300 million downloads.
Okay. Now you're a development stage company. You're raising money now from investors, or you have been. What story do you tell them as to why they should be investing in GoodGamer?
So the initial investment that we received was for a fantasy gaming app. So we launched that fantasy gaming app only about 8 weeks ago. So that's that's the story that we told all the investors, because fantasy gaming has gone from 2 million users to over 100 million users in the last 4 years. We were also the first dual fantasy gaming and esports app in India. So that attracted a lot of investors, and the growth of esports in India when we bring in our real money gaming platform to the mix, which will be very similar to a mobile Premier Live, to a skills platform, where we're going to be onboarding over 30 games next year so that people can play against each other. So that made investors excited, because they can see the big growth potential, seeing that the valuations, for example, on MPL Live, they went from $5 million a couple of years ago to just raising another, I believe it was $80 million at a $450 million valuation just in September. And they see the growth of like skills, where they're going to be doing a SPAC sometime later this year or early next year, and their valuation was $3.5 billion. So there's that blue sky potential that investors say, hey, look, if we invest in a company that's only valued at about $4.5 million right now, with our marketing background, our skills in user acquisition, from my past experience, we believe that we can, get to those levels very quickly. So investors got very excited. The first round of financing that we did was 2.5 million Canadian. And it only took 2 weeks for us to raise that money.
That's pretty good work. Tell us a little bit about that background.
Yeah, so I actually am a gaming pioneer. I was the founder of poker.com back in 2000. So I've actually been in the online gaming industry from the very beginning. I'm also the founder of a company called Native Ads, which is a native advertising firm, which is one of the top digital agencies in Canada for marketing actually publicly traded companies. We do a lot of investor awareness campaigns, and our goal is to actually get investor eyeballs. So we actually ended up using a lot of our skills for raising money and getting those skills to get investors to look at a campaign and looking at a landing page. We've utilized the same type of strategies to acquire users in the first 8 weeks during IPL. We think we're pretty successful so far. In the first 2 months, we ended up getting 425,000 registered users, which I think is a pretty successful campaign. Over 8% of the users deposited money into the platform, which is actually quite high, according to most of the people in the gaming industry, especially for a startup just trying to break in, because we've got a brand new brand. People don't really understand, or people don't know who we are yet, but people are comfortable in depositing money. So we're excited for future growth potential.
Okay, great. And you're about to launch some of your services, some of your products, I guess, in India. So tell us what the near future brings.
Yeah, so we're working on poker right now. Poker actually doesn't need a license in India. It's considered a skill gaming game. Unlike in the United States and Canada, you need licenses for this, which is why we're going to be launching poker probably in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Over the next 3 or 4 months, we're going to have the real money gaming platform with at least 10 games to start. We're going to have all 4 different type of rummy games that the Indians play on that platform. And then we're going to have a whole bunch of mobile casual games as well, including, maybe 1 or 2 of the hardcore esports titles. And the thing with this platform is we're sticking in India, but we're also going to be configuring the platform so we can take users from outside of India, for example, even the United States and Canada, and the Philippines for the real money gaming aspect, for the fantasy gaming aspect as well.
If we look out 3 or 4 years from now, what kind of company will GoodGamer be?
So I hope GoodGamer is going to be one of those companies that you see like DraftKings is, where everybody knows what DraftKings is. They created a fantastic brand for themselves. I want to be known as a company where, hey, look, I want to play fantasy or I want to play mobile casual games for real money. I want GoodGamer to be that brand. Right now, there isn't like a total, one company that has everything all encompassed. For example, Skills, they do have that, but the problem I see with Skills is that you have to actually physically download every single game from outside of a portal. Our platform is a single portal where you can log in, see all the games in the app, and you'll be able to download everything, or play Rummy, or play fantasy all in one app, rather than having to download several different apps, which makes it a lot more difficult for branding a specific portal platform.
You mentioned DraftKings, and of course, DraftKings just earlier this year went public. Would you see GoodGamer at some point as a public company?
Yeah, so we're actually looking to go public, hopefully mid next year, potentially on the TSX Venture. So that's one of our plans in the near future, is actually going public. We feel that our strength, in the capital markets as well, will benefit us while the gaming market is really hot. We want to follow the money. When we're raising money, it's easier when the market's extremely hot. Like even today, DraftKings went back up to $48. They've had fantastic results. I think they had $98 million in revenue last quarter. So there's still a lot of room for growth in that industry, and we feel that it's one of the hottest sectors out there right now.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about India, partly because it's so interesting compared to what we're normally accustomed to here in North America. But obviously, that's a starting point. Your goals are really global.
Yeah, it is global. And what I love about the fantasy and esports market is, in most countries, you don't really need a gaming license to operate. The problem with the casinos and sports books and online poker rooms outside of India is that you'd have to physically apply for a license in every single country. And that's just to get banking, to get, credit card, merchant accounts. With fantasy, you can get PayPal, you can use Stripe. So the barrier to entry in those industries, in esports and fantasy gaming, is a lot less than how a true online sports book and casino operator would have.
Right. How would someone find out more information about you? Do you have a website?
Yeah. So right now you can go to goodgamer.in. That's our website information. We also have an investor presentation if anybody's interested in investing. We're also planning on, in the next month or two, doing another round. It could be our go public financing round, or it could be like a Series A round. We haven't decided yet, but we're looking at doing that in the near future.
Okay, great. You covered a lot of territory in a short time, Charlo. Anything else you would like folks to understand about GoodGamer?
Yeah, actually, one last thing is, we kind of think this is like something in the back of our pocket that the other guys don't have. Is when we originally started GoodGamer, it was actually a streaming app, because Twitch was so busy and getting so big like a few years ago, and now during COVID, it's just ballooned. We've got the streaming app that was pretty much 90% built, and we switched over to fantasy and esports because the market got hot. But just a couple months ago in India, all the streaming apps like Bigo Live, and then there was TikTok, they were like the number one downloaded apps in the country. For example, TikTok had over 300 million downloads. They were the #1 country for TikTok. And now they're all banned because of the India-China issue that they have. So it's a perfect time for us to launch that streaming app in India. And our streaming app was focused on gaming. So the beauty about this is we're able to penetrate that market, get our user acquisition costs down, plus make additional revenue from the virtual gifting that we have in our streaming app, which is what blew up all those companies. For example, DoYou and Huya, you know, they just did a deal, like I believe last month. It was almost a $10 billion US transaction. They're multi-billion-dollar companies. Those companies got their apps banned in India. So, you know, China has a very large gaming community, just like India. So we feel that this is the perfect time for us to hit that market hard with our streaming app. And then that'll give us and drive a lot of users back to our esports, because esports and streaming go hand in hand.
Okay, Charlo, again, very interesting, very informative, and thank you for your insight.
Thank you, Frank.